初めての相手はジョジョではない。このディオだ!
If I have learned one thing from my brief time on YouTube, it's that you should never, ever make a joke about a potential video idea and then not expect people to dogpile you with requests to make said video. It happened with Lincoln, and it has happened again, as today we ask the question, can you beat Fallout New Vegas as Ronald Reagan? Brief history lesson. Who is Ronald Reagan, you may ask? Well, he was the 40th President of the United States and a former actor. At one point, he also wanted to use laser beams to shoot down missiles during the end of the Cold War, so you know, a completely normal individual. There is more to know, but unlike Lincoln, I am not too bothered. I made the passing remark in my Abraham New Vegas video that Reagan liked space lasers, and by golly, we are going to be using space lasers. That means we will be going straight to Helios 1 so we can get the Sea Finder and rain down glorious death upon our enemies. Now with all that out of the way, let's begin. The game has a character creator. I attempt to make him old and Reagan-like, but even a full age slider is only like late 30s and early 40s at best. Eventually, I just settled on this, as after all, I'm going to be in first person for 90% of the run anyway. The Sea Finder is finicky enough at the best of times without trying to fire it in third person. For my specials, I put everything into intelligence, charisma, and endurance. No real character reasons behind it this time, they are just the best stats for what's going to happen in this run. Also, I know I should never put specials at 10 right out of the gate, as it's more efficient to put them to 9 and then get the implants later. But here's the thing. I don't care, as I am never touching this character again after today. For my tag skills, I take speech, barter, and energy weapons. Energy weapons doesn't actually affect the Sea Finder, but I still thought it would be fitting to take, and so I did. As for the other two, well, you could never go wrong with speech considering how overpowered it is in New Vegas, and barter was for a single skill check later in the run. Finally, for traits, I take skilled and good-natured for extra skill increases. As none of my offensive skills matter, they seemed like a pretty good idea. Making my way into the open world, I had only one objective in mind, and that was to get my space lasers as soon as feasibly possible. To start things off, like usual, I begin heading east as I make my way into Sloan so I can heal up Snuffles and the generator, as well as taking the time to procure some caps from the American citizens. I am the president after all, they must abide by my decisions. Normally, that's where I end my time in Sloan, but other than coming back here later in the run to test something out, I also made sure to grab some scrap metal. The reason being, I can't remember if I needed or not to repair some wires in Helios 1, and I would rather be safe than sorry. Walking through Hidden Valley, for once I am not going down and around past Neil, but rather we are hop, skipping and jumping our way through Scorpion Gulch as it takes us directly into Helios 1. Sure, the Scorpions will prove fatal if they so much as land 2 attacks on me, what with my 0 defense as I am just wearing normal clothes, mainly suits for this run. Fortunately, simply jumping while also moving forward is enough to evade their pinchers. Well, that is, ironically, until I get out of the gulch and get hit by a giant one who was seemingly just waiting for me on the other side. Luck would have it that this happened close enough to the facility that I was able to just lead the Scorpion to the NCR guarding the front door, who were then able to deal with it within seconds. I pass a speech check to let me inside, but before I begin the quest, I am going to need a little help. To repair and power up Archimedes 2, I need to venture down through a part of the building that is filled with hostile turrets and robots. With no way to defend myself, even if I had the Sea Finder given that it's indoors, I would need to find someone to do the fighting for me. As it just so happens, there is a soldier in a nearby town who will make a rather effective meat shield and distraction. Recruiting Boone is something we have all done many times, I'm sure, so I won't bother going over it. Rather, I will address the fact that I will only be having him around until the end of the Lucky Old Sun quest, and then he will be going straight back to living inside a dinosaur. The idea to use Boone actually came from the comments of the Lincoln video, as people were confused why I didn't take Boone along, given the fact he served the president and was also incredibly violent towards slavers. So, considering we are another president yet again, I figured I could rectify my past blunder and have him tag along for even a part of the ride. After getting the quest, I began activating the terminals that would allow me to gain access to the basement with the killer robots. I also made sure to pick up the spare solar panel parts, that way I won't need to increase my repair skill to help out the boomers when the time comes to do that. I'll be honest, I was worried that the robots would overwhelm Boone and I would have to either keep leaving and re-entering the area to revive him, or let him practice acupuncture with my stimpaks. However, to my delight, he was able to clear out each and every one of them with little to no hassle. Well, there was a few times where he pulled out his machete, but more often than not, he came back to his senses, and soon enough, continued his quick scoping montage. Turns out I was right to grab the scrap and Sloan, as I did indeed need it to repair the wire of the nearby generator. Once that's done, I make sure I send the power to Archimedes too, turn in the quest, and say goodbye to Boone. Our time together was short, but hopefully he takes comfort in the fact that I'm going to use the Hammer of Dawn on the NCR's enemies. Well, before I do that, I need to get the Seafinder if I want to actually make use of my new personal Death Star, and that's going to require me to run over to Freeside. On the way, I passed one of the only speech checks in this run as I convinced the Great Khans to stand down in Boulder City. The plan was to gain their trust due to most of their leadership being indoors, and therefore out of Armageddon range. But we will see how that pans out later. As I am in the area, I also mark Hoover Dam on the map for later, just for fast travelling purposes. From this point, the walk to Freeside was as uneventful as ever, so let's skip ahead a bit. Once we get to Freeside, I wait around for a while until I see Max, as, unbeknownst to him, he is carrying what is probably the single most devastating weapon on the planet right now. This is where tagging barter comes into play, as I can convince him that it's only worth 20 caps, as opposed to his initial asking price of 1,000. With the weapon in hand, we can finally get the ball rolling, but before tackling the main quest, I of course need to test it out. Conveniently, right as I procure the Seafinder, I encounter the two most unfortunate muggers ever. The laser takes some time to line up its shot, but at the very least you can reposition where it's going to strike, so it's rare you will ever miss your target. Shocking no one, the explosion from outer space absolutely decimates the two low-leveled thugs. Alright, now for the first major drawback of the weapon, it can only be fired once every in-game day. This means I either need to be very precise as to where I aim the laser, should I want to win combat encounters with one shot, or I will have to use it, leave the area of said combat, wait a day, and then return to finish giving them a piece of my mind. Of course, certain scenarios are impossible. I already mentioned how it cannot be fired indoors, so I can't say walk into Gomorrah and rain hellfire down upon the Omertas, despite how much I would like to. That also means taking out Benny while he's in the tops is also out of the question, although, thankfully, you don't ever need to set foot inside the building, as Benny, Yes Man and the Platinum Chip are not required for the NCR questline. So really, my only option on the strip for now is to talk with Crocker and see about getting the aid of the boomers, because I suppose one piece of aerial ordnance is just not enough. Again, I cannot really use the Seafinder while helping the boomers, so I just use this single charge that I regenerated to completely wipe George off this plane of existence. Not only is this deserved, given how many people he has more than likely sent to their deaths, but it also shows the boomers that they aren't the only ones who are able to rip a hole in the sky for their own amusement. When I get inside, I agree to help the boomers and get to work. First, I use the skill book to give me just enough medicine to fix up the patients for Argyle, then I agree to help Raquel and Loyal. Repairing the panels is simple, given that I already got the parts from Helios. As for dealing with the ants, again, no lasers indoors, so I convinced Loyal to hand me a sonic emitter, which I used to clear the place out with the push of a button. Both of these tasks were enough to get me idolized, but for good measure, and some XP, I helped Jack with his love problem by agreeing to send Janet over. And that's pretty much all there is to the boomers. I of course went and raised the bomber, but that's never very exciting, especially when you're doing this for like the 100th time. To alleviate the monotony, I did cook myself some crab. Now that the boomers were willing to help me, I will never speak to them again, and for good measure, on my way out, I make sure to grab the Brotherhood holotip, as I will need to check in on them in a while. As of right now though, my next task is to deal with the Kings. Sure, I could go along with the GI Blues quest, as it's just a lot of talking with no sky lasers. However, that sounded kind of boring today, and if I can solve an issue with sky lasers, I am going to solve an issue with sky lasers. Meaning it was off to the Silver Rush to put in a hard day's work. By which I of course mean stand around and do nothing until Pacer approaches and then smite him with the light of God. With the Elvis-shaped shadow burnt into the sidewalk, it was time to leave, mainly because Simon also got caught in the blast, and now the entirety of the Silver Rush wants me dead. I took the door where Bill Ronte would normally sit and began running for the old Mormon fort, as it seems to act like a safe zone where no one can kill you. My plan both did and didn't work, as the game crashed when I entered the fort. This did cause the Van Graffs to stop chasing me, but it seems to have caused a new problem, a much, much worse one. After I reloaded the game, I came to find that the Seafinder had stopped working. This is actually a common problem. Among many with this gun, it is notoriously buggy, and it has a habit of just not working seemingly at random, and for some people it can break entirely and never fix itself, requiring you to start a new playthrough if you want to use it. If you would like to see proof of this, I implore you to check out Mitten Squad's video where he did a run only using the Seafinder, and you will see what kind of troubles it can cause. Now, I know some of you are probably saying I should just download a mod to fix the issue, as it's out of my control. But two things. One, I am playing on the 360 version of New Vegas via backwards compatibility on my Series X, as it is the most stable version of the game, don't at me. And two, I feel like downloading a mod to fix a faulty weapon is cheating. Part of the challenge is to use the weapon as is, modifying it with outside resources kind of ruins that. Trying to fix the gun, I tried reloading every last one of my previous saves to see if any of them worked, but in every single one of them, the gun just wouldn't fire. Like, the lasers appear, but there's no boom. I even tried completely restarting the game and even the console, but that didn't work either. My last attempt was that maybe it was an issue with the ammo, what with it only having one at all times, so maybe it wasn't registering. So to try and counter that, I set up a glitch that people keep asking me to do. I make my way back to Hoover Dam and use my speech skill to convince the quartermaster there that I am good to trade with. I then purchase over 3,000 BBs from him and equip the BB gun. With the BB gun equipped, I do the hotkeyed ammo glitch and then switch back over to the C-Finder, and now it has over 3,000 rounds. I then go outside and attempted to fire it, and once again, nothing. Running out of options, I looked online and saw a post where somebody said try putting the gun in a container and then take it back and it might work. I figured it was worth a shot, so I fast traveled from Hoover Dam to the Cassidy Caravan site just because it had containers outside and therefore I could test it right away, and unfortunately, yet again, nothing. At this point, I figured the run was too far gone and just quit out of the game for a few hours. Later that same night, I had some more free time, so I decided to load up the save again, when this happened. So, I guess the box trick worked after all. To make sure it continues to work, I tested out on some nearby fire ants and fiends, and yeah, not only does it work, I now have the 3,000 plus rounds to back me up, meaning I can finally start getting some actual use out of the thing this video is based around. Crazy, I know. I would like to point out that one of these ants is now invincible for some reason. Look, we're not going to question it. I am currently using a glitch to my advantage. The textures could all disappear and I wouldn't care so long as I can keep using the laser beam.
I'm fucking invincible!
Besides those ants, I had a specific target in mind now that I didn't need to be cautious with my ammo. Normally it would be the Omertas, but again they are out of the picture today. So instead it's back to Freeside as I finish off the Van Graffs, more the fools them for all standing at the entrance to their shop while I calibrated the God Ray. Despite the fact I took out Pacer while a part of the Van Graffs, Crocker was not best pleased with how public it was. I suppose it was hard to miss. Not that it really matters as I successfully fail the quest and can now progress to the Hoover Dam quests. Although, before that, I had a few other things I wanted to take care of. First of all, House. It's nothing too difficult, I just use my science skill to hack by his terminals. Normally, once you have the platinum chip, the locks are gone, but of course, I can't get it, as mentioned earlier. It's not a big deal, it just takes a few seconds longer while I guess the codes. I don't kill House, but rather I just cut his control over the Securitrons and the strip. Alrighty, now for something fun. I ran back to Sloan and agreed to help out Chomps Lewis by obliterating the Death Claws. To give credit where it's due, all of them except the children were able to survive a near direct hit from the blast, and that's very impressive given what it is. Of course, running in here and coming within swiping distance of them will lead to a very quick death, so like any Bethesda veteran, I know to just climb onto a slightly elevated piece of the landscape with no way to walk up to it, and since the Deathclaws don't have range capabilities, I have effectively already won the fight before it has begun. While the Mama and Papa Deathclaws take considerably more blasts to put down for good, each one also knocks them off their feet, so they are easy enough to pin down. Occasionally, this would also break their legs, and that just gave me the warm and fuzzies. It's not long before the place was cleared out, and I got my absolutely pitiful reward from Chomps. Ah well, on the bright side, now that the quarry is clear, it is no hassle to walk on through. I made my way for Red Rock that way, instead of usually running west from Freeside. Sure, coming up from the south means I'm contending with the Vipers in Bonnie Springs, but they are easily dealt with and brushed aside. I am presented with a small problem when it comes to melee opponents, as I will need to aim the satellite pretty close to myself in order to make sure they get caught in the blast. Naturally, this means I too am caught in the blast. As long as I don't lose my arm, end up with shrapnel on my forehead and thinking I am somebody else entirely, then I should be fine. Alrighty then, time for the cans. Now, initially I thought I was going to have to help them because, again, Big Beam no like House. However, the solution to genocide was quite simple. First of all, I waited till the early hours of the morning so that I could take out Regis while he was making his way back to his tent. That's one chain of the command gone already, only a few more. Before going into the longhouse to get the attention of the others, I instead began firing strikes down at the lower area of Red Rock. Interestingly, the Seafinder actually has a much longer range than it lets on. You may not be able to see the red lights, but it is in fact still charging off in the distance, and before you know it, you will see a blinding explosion, followed by the lovely sound of dings and experience. I set up here and continue doing this until the sound of bullets whizzing past my head stops. Once I am certain all the cans in the valley are dead, I go to deal with the longhouse dwellers. The solution to getting them outside is so simple, I don't know how it took me until now to figure it out. I just wait until Papa Can is at his seat, and once I'm sure everybody is looking at me, I steal multiple things from them, enough to make them hostile, and then run for the exit. The instant I am outside, I begin charging my laser, and sure enough, every single one of them from the house leaves at the same time, and they all stand grouped up while I continue to build up energy. Thankfully, or stupidly for them, none of them move, and with one final explosion, the cans are once again wiped out from the Mojave. As we are on the genocide route right now, it's off to deal with the Brotherhood as well. Sadly, there is no way for me to make use of the satellite here, so I just use it on Dobson instead. Once I'm given the free rein to explore the bunker, I set the turrets to anti-tin can mode, and then carefully make my way to the supercomputer so that I may blow up the base and be done with them. Apologies if I didn't spend as much time in the Brotherhood here, but there is really nothing special to go over this time. They are simply worm food, and that is that. Not wanting to wrap things up just yet, and always being an experience whore, I made my way up to Black Mountain for the Crazy Cubed quest. I take my normal route and fix up Rhonda so that the two may be reunited. Which is just a nice way of saying it was the easiest way to get them both together so that I may eviscerate them in one fell swoop. Now on a little bit of a quest high, and because I thought it would be funny, I returned to my roots, shot bottles with Sonny, and agreed to help Ringo fend off the powder gangers. This was easily one of the most satisfying endings to a quest ever, as I managed to target a very specific part of the ground that looked like it was just out of reach, and was able to take out all of the powder gangers without even seeing them. Once I get my reward from Ringo, for some reason I felt like I just needed to make my way for Nipton so that I could destroy Volpes and his crew. As well as Oliver Swanwick. Alright, I have had my destructive fun, it was time to go back to my tasks with the NCR, the next and last of which was the Omertas. You know the drill by now, if I can't kill them, I will just quickly run through their quest by stealing from and bribing/blackmailing Caccino, Troik and Clandon. This leads to a confrontation with the bosses Nero and Big Sal, but because I cannot attack and I can't have them kill Caccino as it would basically softlock the quest for me, I played things smart. First off, I stole all of Nero and Sal's ammo that was on their person so they wouldn't have their guns, and then when they were having the sit down with me, I made sure to use speech to have them turn on one another. Caccino was then more than able to clean up the mess, being the only one with a firearm after all, allowing me to return to the dam and see how good the President is at protecting the President. Thanks to helping the NCRA beforehand, I have a high enough rep with them that I am able to have full access to the dam, along with the rights to use my weapon. I get the jump on the Legion engineers, I ruffle around his pockets and steal the detonator before Kimball even has a chance to land. As soon as I am able, I warn Grant about the bomb and then go to deal with the sniper. Due to the overly long charge, I'm not able to calibrate the satellite in time. Fortunately, the Rangers were able to pick up the slack and crack open the sniper's head like a walnut. Kimball is saved, and now it is of course time for the final battle. The intro section of the NCR's version of the battle starts with you inside the dam, so naturally I am completely defenseless. To that end, I just avoid all the Legion soldiers as I quickly make my way to the surface. To make up for that lack of bloodshed, I take it upon myself to personally make sure that every single one of the Legion's troops assaulting the dam is met with a similarly destructive fate. As you can see, this leads to many a multi-kill, and once more, allows me to upstage the boomers and wonder why I even bothered recruiting them in the first place. The assistance of Alpha Squad was greatly appreciated, for about all of 2 minutes before they inevitably got caught in the blast radius of one of my many cleansing beams. Onto the camp, and clearing it out before confronting the Legate is simple enough. That said, the final confrontation doesn't exactly go according to plan. As usual, I let the two NCR troopers with knives have their shot, which, like always, ends with them getting knocked around like they're part of a Looney Tunes skit. This caused the Legate to move into dialogue range, so I didn't get the chance to get one of my free shots off against him. Not that that really matters, mind you, in the grand scheme of things. If you think he is going to be able to survive the encounter, you're sorely mistaken. To make things a little more fair, for him, I allow him the use of his backup by not tricking him into the most one-sided duel in history. That said, his reinforcements don't last long at all, and before you know it, it's back to a one-on-one anyway. In an attempt to even out the playing field, the Legate brought out the assault rifle, which, while effective, did not put him outside of space death range. After a few more charges, I get the best timed Lord Death notification ever at the demise of the Legate, attempt to take out Oliver and the boys as they approach, succeed in only breaking my own limbs, finishing the game, and proving yes, you can indeed beat Fallout New Vegas as Ronald Reagan. Well, that was fun. Glitching the gun with infinite ammo was probably my best choice this run, honestly. Otherwise, it would have just been a speech-focused run with extra steps. I would like to point out that this is a one-off. I am not going to be doing any other presidential runs other than Lincoln. I only did this because, like I said, after I made the joke about it in the New Vegas video, people genuinely seemed interested by the idea, even if it was just going to be a Sea Finder run with no armor at the end of the day. As for when Lincoln will return, I don't know, September 8th? September 8th, yeah, that sounds good. Regardless, that's going to be in this challenge video. If you enjoyed what you saw, consider giving the video a like, and you're interested in more challenges in the future, feel free to subscribe. Try to have one of these videos every week. My name's Nerbit, stay safe everyone, I'll see y'all in the next video.